Stevie Nicks, born Stephanie Lynn Nicks on May 26, 1948, in Phoenix, Arizona, is a legendary American singer, songwriter, and producer who became one of the most iconic and influential figures in rock history. Known for her ethereal stage presence, mystical lyrics, and distinctive voice, Nicks rose to prominence as a key member of Fleetwood Mac before establishing a successful solo career. Raised in a supportive but frequently relocating family due to her father's executive role with Greyhound, she moved around the United States during her childhood, living in places like Utah, California, and Texas. Her grandfather, a country singer, played a crucial role in nurturing her love of music by teaching her to sing and perform from a young age. While attending Arcadia High School and later Menlo Atherton High School, she began songwriting and playing guitar, often keeping journals filled with poems and lyrics. Stevie met Lindsey Buckingham during her senior year in high school, and the two began a personal and musical partnership that would shape both their careers. They eventually joined forces in a band called Fritz, which opened for major acts like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin in the late 1960s. After Fritz disbanded, Stevie and Lindsey pursued their musical ambitions as a duo, releasing the album Buckingham Nicks in 1973, which, despite its commercial failure, showcased their talent and chemistry. Struggling financially and working as a waitress and house cleaner to support them while Buckingham focused on studio work, Stevie continued to write prolifically, crafting what would become some of her most famous songs. Their big break came in 1975 when Mick Fleetwood invited them to join Fleetwood Mac after hearing their demo tape. Nicks's addition to the band, along with Buckingham, transformed Fleetwood Mac's sound and catapulted them to international fame. With the release of Fleetwood Mac, 1975, and Rumours, 1977, which remains one of the best-selling albums of all time, Nicks emerged as a songwriting powerhouse with tracks like Rhiannon, Landslide, and Dreams, the latter becoming a chart-topping hit. Her theatrical performance style, characterized by flowing shawls, platform boots, and a mystical aura, captured the imagination of millions and made her a symbol of female strength in rock music. Despite the intense personal turmoil within the band, particularly her breakup with Buckingham and the ongoing struggles among other members, Nicks' creativity flourished, and she became the emotional and poetic heart of Fleetwood Mac. Her early years were defined not only by her talent and vision, but also by her relentless perseverance, artistic integrity, and the courage to pursue a path that defied expectations. These foundational experiences paved the way for her to later step out as a solo artist and become one of the few women to sustain simultaneous success in both a band and solo career, leaving an indelible mark on the history of music. The peak of Stevie Nicks' career began in the late 1970s and extended throughout the 1980s, marking a period of extraordinary success, critical acclaim, and cultural impact that few artists, especially women in rock, have ever achieved. After skyrocketing to fame with Fleetwood Mac's Rumours in 1977, which sold over 40 million copies worldwide, Stevie became not just a member of a successful band but a cultural icon in her own right. Her unique songwriting voice, filled with poetic imagery, emotional depth, and elements of mysticism, made songs like Dreams, Gold Dust Woman, and Sarah enduring classics. The emotional turbulence within Fleetwood Mac, romantic breakups, personal conflicts, and the pressures of fame fueled much of the raw honesty in her lyrics, making her songs deeply resonant with audiences. As Fleetwood Mac continued to tour and record, Nicks' presence on stage, draped in black lace, chiffon, and platform boots, captured the public imagination and became a symbol of empowered femininity blended with vulnerability. In 1981, at the height of her fame with Fleetwood Mac, Stevie made a bold and risky move by launching her solo career. Her debut solo album, Belladonna, was a massive success, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, and eventually going quadruple platinum. The album featured hit singles like Edge of 17, Leather and Lace, a duet with Don Henley, and Stop Dragging My Heart Around, a collaboration with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. These songs not only confirmed her viability as a solo artist, but also solidified her place in rock history as one of the few women able to bridge the gap between solo stardom and band success. She followed up Belladonna with other successful solo albums such as The Wild Heart, 1983, and Rock a Little, 1985, producing further hits like Stand Back and If Anyone Falls. Her collaborations with major artists, such as Prince, who inspired the synth-driven Stand Back, further expanded her musical horizons and influence. During this period, Stevie Nicks became more than a singer. She became a symbol. Her image was everywhere, from Rolling Stone covers to sold-out stadiums, and she was widely regarded as the queen of rock and roll. Critics praised her songwriting, her voice, and her ability to craft an aesthetic that blended classic rock with mystical storytelling and a raw emotional edge. Fans, especially women, connected with her authenticity, her ability to convey heartbreak, independence, longing, and resilience, all in a single verse. Despite heavy competition in a male-dominated industry, Stevie carved a lane entirely her own, inspiring a generation of artists with her poetic lyrics and singular style. Yet, even as she soared artistically and commercially, the demands of constant touring, the pressure to succeed on her own, and the chaotic dynamics within Fleetwood Mac began to take a toll on her health and personal life. Still, during this golden era of her career, Stevie Nicks stood at the center of the musical universe, respected, revered, and unmatched in her ability to blend art, emotion, and theatricality into a form that redefined the boundaries of rock music for women. The peak years of Stevie Nicks' career not only cemented her legacy as a rock legend, but also laid the groundwork for decades of influence across genres, generations, and cultures. Despite the dazzling heights of her success, Stevie Nicks' journey through fame was not without turmoil, personal crises, and controversies that threatened to derail both her career and well-being. By the mid to late 1980s, the relentless pressure of performing, recording, and maintaining her dual careers as a solo artist and member of Fleetwood Mac began to take a heavy toll. At the heart of much of this turbulence was her long and difficult battle with addiction. Stevie had developed a dependency on cocaine during the height of her fame, a drug that was sadly normalized in the music industry at the time. Years of heavy use led to serious health complications, including a perforated nasal septum, and she later described herself as a functioning addict, continuing to tour and record while internally falling apart. In 1986, after completing her solo album Rock a Little, Stevie's condition worsened to the point that those around her feared for her life. It was then that she entered the Betty Ford Center for Rehabilitation. Though she succeeded in overcoming her cocaine addiction, her struggles were far from over. Shortly after leaving treatment, she was prescribed the tranquilizer Klonopin by a psychiatrist, a decision that would prove disastrous. The drug left her emotionally numb and physically lethargic, and over the course of nearly a decade, it robbed her of her creative spark and personal drive. Stevie has since referred to the Klonopin years as a dark fog and worse than the cocaine. It wasn't until the early 1990s that she finally freed herself from the grip of that addiction. But the damage to her career momentum was already visible. During this time, controversies also surfaced regarding the internal dynamics of Fleetwood Mac. The band was known for its tangled personal relationships. Stevie's infamous romance with Lindsey Buckingham had ended years earlier, but emotional tensions remained high. Her brief affair with Mick Fleetwood further complicated matters, particularly because he was married at the time. These romantic entanglements, along with power struggles and clashing egos, often spilled into public view. One of the most notable disputes came when Lindsey Buckingham left the band in 1987. Though his departure was officially attributed to creative differences and tour-related disagreements, rumors swirled that his strained relationship with Stevie and other band members had reached a breaking point. Outside of the band, Stevie faced criticism from the media, some of it fueled by sexism and double standards. Her fashion sense, mystical image, and ethereal lyrics were sometimes dismissed by male critics as self-indulgent or witchy in a derogatory sense. Rumors falsely linking her to occult practices circulated for years, despite her repeated denials and explanations that her spiritual imagery was symbolic, not literal. These misconceptions often distracted from her genuine artistry and the deep emotional core of her songwriting. Additionally, Stevie's decision not to marry or have children became a subject of tabloid speculation. Critics questioned her lifestyle, her independence, and her choices, reflecting broader societal discomfort with powerful, autonomous women. Yet, even under the scrutiny of the media and the weight of personal demons, Stevie remained a public figure who never completely disappeared from view. She continued to release music, perform live, and maintain a loyal fan base, even as her internal battles raged on. In retrospect, this era of crisis and controversy humanized Stevie Nicks. It revealed the fragility behind the icon, the pain behind the poetry, and showed that even someone as revered as she was vulnerable to the trappings of fame, flawed decisions, and emotional wounds. Yet, as the world would soon see, these years of darkness would eventually give way to a powerful resurgence. But the story of Stevie Nicks' crises is essential, not just for the trials she faced, but for the resilience she would summon to reclaim her life and artistry. Stevie Nicks' journey toward rebirth and resurgence began in the early 1990s, following years of personal struggle, addiction, and waning momentum in her career. Having finally broken free from the grip of Klonopin after an arduous and painful detox, Stevie emerged with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. She often refers to this period as her second chance at life, an opportunity to reclaim the creative spark and independence that once defined her. Her determination to return stronger than ever began with the 1994 release of Street Angel, an album that received mixed reviews but symbolized her resilience and refusal to be counted out. While the production of Street Angel was fraught with challenges, Stevie herself later admitted she wasn't fully present during the recording process. It served as a stepping stone toward a more empowered and focused version of herself. Her real resurgence came in 1997, when Fleetwood Mac reunited in their classic Rumours lineup for The Dance, a live album and tour that reignited global interest in the band and brought Stevie back to the forefront of popular music. The tour was a resounding success, and the chemistry between the band members, especially between Stevie and Lindsey Buckingham, was undeniable. This reunion not only reminded fans of the magic they had once created, but also introduced the band to a new generation. For Stevie, it was both a professional and personal triumph, proof that she could rise from the ashes of addiction and inner turmoil with dignity and grace. The late 1990s and early 2000s marked a period of sustained renewal. In 2001, Stevie released Trouble in Shangri-La, a solo album that was both a critical and commercial success. The album featured collaborations with contemporary female artists like Sheryl Crow and Macy Gray, reaffirming Stevie's relevance in a changing musical landscape. Songs such as Every Day and Sorcerer echoed her classic style while revealing a more mature, reflective perspective. She toured extensively in support of the album, and her performances were met with praise not only for their nostalgic appeal, but for their authenticity and emotional depth. Beyond music, Stevie also began to reframe her image in the public eye. She spoke more openly about her past struggles, using her platform to raise awareness about the dangers of prescription drug addiction, particularly for women. Her candidness endeared her to fans and critics alike, who now saw her not just as an ethereal rock goddess, but as a survivor with hard-earned wisdom. Her ability to evolve while staying true to her artistic identity inspired countless artists, especially young women seeking a model of strength and originality. In 2014, another milestone came when Christine McVie rejoined Fleetwood Mac, setting the stage for a full-fledged reunion tour. Once again, Stevie's commanding stage presence and distinctive voice captivated sold-out arenas across the globe. Her poetic lyrics and iconic twirls remained timeless, and her songs, now decades old, continued to resonate with audiences of all ages. This sustained relevance culminated in 2019, when Stevie Nicks was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist, making her the first woman in history to be inducted twice, the first being with Fleetwood Mac in 1998. The honor was not only a celebration of her musical achievements, but a validation of her unique place in rock history, a female artist who carved out a space in a male-dominated industry without compromising her voice, vision, or values. Even into her 70s, Stevie continued to tour, mentor young artists, and release music, including collaborations with Lana Del Rey and others who cite her as a key influence. Her return was not a fleeting comeback, but a sustained renaissance that redefined what longevity in music could look like for women. Through resilience, vulnerability, and artistic evolution, Stevie Nicks transformed her narrative from one of cautionary decline to triumphant return. Her rebirth stands as a testament to the power of perseverance, the healing force of music, and the enduring light of a soul who refused to be extinguished. Stevie Nicks's legacy is etched deeply into the fabric of rock history, not only for her mystical voice and poetic lyricism, but also for the path she carved as a powerful and unapologetically feminine force in a male-dominated industry. Her influence stretches far beyond the confines of Fleetwood Mac or her own solo career. It reverberates through generations of musicians, songwriters, performers, and fans who see in her a symbol of artistic freedom, emotional honesty, and spiritual resilience. With her signature shawls, lace, platform boots, and swirling stage presence, Stevie redefined what it meant to be a rock star. Feminine but not fragile, ethereal yet grounded, mysterious but deeply personal. Her image wasn't crafted by handlers or molded by commercial expectation. It was born of her own vision, a manifestation of the stories she told through her songs. Musically, her songwriting stands among the most revered in rock. Tracks like Landslide, Dreams, Rhiannon, and Edge of 17 are not merely hits. They are anthems of vulnerability and strength, heartbreak and rebirth. Dreams, in particular, became a timeless touchstone, re-entering the charts more than 4 decades after its release, thanks to a viral TikTok video in 2020. That moment symbolized something profound. Stevie Nicks's relevance isn't bound by decades. Her art continues to resonate because it speaks to emotional truths that transcend time. Her lyrics, poetic, symbolic, often cryptic, allow listeners to find their own meanings, to use her songs as a mirror for their own lives. But Stevie's legacy also lives in the women who followed her. Artists like Florence Welch, Lorde, Lana Del Rey, Haim, and Taylor Swift have all acknowledged her as a defining influence, not only musically, but in how she carried herself as a woman in music. Her mentorship of younger artists has been quiet but impactful, offering guidance, solidarity, and a blueprint for surviving both the creative and personal challenges of fame. She proved that femininity could be powerful, that vulnerability could coexist with strength, and that authenticity could be a revolutionary act. Stevie didn't just open doors for female artists, she showed them how to walk through those doors on their own terms. Beyond music, Stevie has left a cultural imprint that blends the mystical with the deeply human. Her spiritual persona, filled with references to witches, goddesses, dreams, and destiny, tapped into something primal and universal, giving her a mythic quality without losing her relatability. She became a pop culture icon, referenced in films, television, fashion, and even literature. Her participation in American Horror Story Coven as a fictionalized version of herself further cemented her place as a modern archetype of the white witch, wise, ethereal, powerful. Her advocacy and candor about addiction, women's health, and artistic control have made her a voice of integrity. Stevie has spoken openly about the cost of fame, the battles she's fought, and the choices she's made, good and bad, offering her fans not a fantasy, but a full and flawed portrait of a woman who has lived, loved, lost, and endured. In doing so, she gave people permission to own their stories, to honor their scars, and to keep moving forward. In the end, the legacy of Stevie Nicks is not just in her music, her fashion, or her voice. It's in her spirit. She represents the power of self-reinvention, the beauty of storytelling, and the strength of staying true to one's inner world. Whether she's casting spells on stage or scribbling lyrics into notebooks late at night, Stevie remains an emblem of artistic authenticity. Her influence will continue long after she leaves the spotlight, carried forward in every woman who dares to sing her truth, dance in the moonlight, and turn her pain into poetry. Among the many triumphs that have shaped Stevie Nicks's legendary career, there also lies a thread of profound sorrow, a sorrow that has followed her like a shadow, coloring the poetry of her lyrics and the texture of her voice. Perhaps the deepest and most enduring pain in Stevie's life is the loss of her lifelong friend and musical soulmate, Robin Anderson. Robin was not just a friend, she was Stevie's confidant, her grounding force, and her emotional anchor through the chaotic heights of fame. In 1982, Robin was diagnosed with leukemia while pregnant. Stevie, devastated, stayed by her side, offering support and refusing to believe she would lose her. Tragically, Robin passed away just days after giving birth to her son, and Stevie's world was shattered. This loss sent Stevie into a tailspin of grief and guilt, compounded by the whirlwind of her career and the emotional toll of addiction. In a moment of confusion and desperation, she married Robin's widower, Kim Anderson, believing that by raising Robin's child, she could keep a part of her best friend alive. But the marriage was short-lived, lasting only a few months. Both Stevie and Kim eventually realized that their union had been born from shared grief rather than love. This chapter, quietly tucked into the background of Stevie's public life, represents one of the most heartbreaking periods of her journey. Robin's death profoundly influenced Stevie's music. Songs like Nightbird, Has Anyone Ever Written Anything for You, and Edge of 17 are steeped in sorrow and remembrance. These tracks became vessels through which she processed her mourning, translating unspeakable pain into melodies that touched the hearts of listeners around the world. For Stevie, the stage became both a refuge and a reminder. She often described performing as a way to commune with Robin's spirit, to feel her presence amidst the darkness of absence. Yet Robin's loss was only one facet of Stevie's enduring sadness. The emotional wreckage of her tumultuous relationships, especially with Lindsey Buckingham, added another layer to her heartache. Their bond, forged in love and broken in the firestorm of Fleetwood Mac's success, was never fully repaired. Though they remained bandmates and collaborators for decades, their dynamic was haunted by what could have been. Stevie has admitted that she often felt torn between love and ambition, between partnership and independence. That inner conflict bled into many of her most iconic songs, leaving fans to decipher the poetry of pain hidden within her verses. Another lingering sorrow came from her decision never to have children. Though Stevie was fiercely independent and career-focused, she has spoken candidly about the cost of her choices. The demands of fame, the chaos of touring, and the constant battle to maintain artistic control left little room for motherhood. In later years, she expressed regret and longing, wondering what life might have looked like if things had been different. Her maternal instincts were often channeled into her mentorship of younger artists and her enduring love for her godchildren, but the ache of what she sacrificed never fully disappeared. Even her battles with substance abuse carried their own emotional toll. At the height of her fame, Stevie struggled with addiction to cocaine and later to prescription medication, which she used to cope with physical and emotional pain. The damage to her health, relationships, and creativity took years to heal. Entering rehab in the 1990s was a turning point, but also a sobering confrontation with the depths she had reached. In interviews, she has reflected on this period with a mixture of relief and sorrow, grateful to have survived, but painfully aware of what was lost along the way. Stevie Nicks' greatest sadness, then, is not just a single moment or loss. It is a tapestry of grief woven through the fabric of her life. But what makes her story so compelling is not that she succumbed to sorrow, but that she transformed it into art. Through every heartbreak, every loss, every regret, Stevie kept writing, kept singing, and kept dancing beneath the moonlight. Her pain gave her songs depth, her resilience gave them power, and in sharing her sadness, she helped millions find comfort in their own.